Any questions right now? Okay, cool. So during your study, how's that? You might find, let's see if I can do a lightning bolt. I like to call it storms. We're all going to face storms. Right now, even I look at the mass. We're in this pandemic, and this has been a storm. This has really impacted our well-being, and it's influenced us all in many different ways. For some of us, it's really kind of influenced our belief system, our hope for the future. Like, what am I going to do now? How's this going to impact my family? For some of us, we just start to think very negatively about what's the point. For some of our physical, we just don't want to get out of bed anymore. Our body is tired all the time, exhausted. So throughout your studies, not just the pandemic, but just with the amount of work that you will be doing with studying, there will be impacts to your well-being, and often it's going to be connected to one, both, or the other. Now, I argue for those that were at Jumpstart, what does resilience mean, or what did I argue resilience meant? Or even those that weren't at Jumpstart, what does resilience mean? Yeah, adapt. And so yeah, that's one part of it. What would be the other piece before it? Recognition, yeah. So to be resilient, first, I argue, you have to notice when a certain part of your being needs attention. Okay, and you have to take time, and this is a big piece of it, that you take time to step away from the study or personal and really focus on yourself and what is it that you need in that very moment. And that's a skill in itself, to allow yourself space to be curious about what might be going on for you and how it's influencing you. And then the second part of it, once you've noticed, so let's say my emotions have just been all over the place. I'm extremely anxious all the time. Before I go to class, I just feel this heightened anxiety. And the second piece of it is being able to adapt and bounce back. And this comes in many different ways. Sometimes it'll be going back to Old Faithful, what has worked for me in the past? But this can also be, what do I need now as I go into the future? And sometimes trying something new can be a really key component of it as well. So, thoughts, questions at this point? No? All right. So this is the main reason I'm here. I just like to talk sometimes too. Let's see. Let's go. This is my main pitch, I guess. During your study, you might notice that a certain area of being well is influenced. And my main message is that there are supports out there available to you. They're free, and I highly encourage them. Students that do reach out and get connected often will find a better well-being, but often will find greater success in their studies because they're taking care of the different components of whatever it is that they may need in that certain moment. So as I said already, there is counseling available here at the local campus where you can do virtual, phone, and I believe in person, although we'll have masks right now or certain precautions in place. But there's different kind of options for you, and you have myself or Christine as well. There's also, though, specifically for international students, there's a Keep Me Safe program. Did you cover the Keep Me Safe program already?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so I won't have to go into much detail about that, but there's a lot of supports, resources available through them, and you can get counseling within your preferred language. Although with some language, I think you have to request ahead of time, but they're really designed to support the international student population. On top of that, though, let's see if I can. Oh, will this? Let's get off of that.
You have to click on the mouse button.
Oh, okay, yeah. Perfect. So has anyone had time to check out the website yet at the college somewhat? So I just like to show. Oh, we do? Okay. Let's see, let's go back to here. And let's share this new one. So on the website, there's a list of other resources available to all students. So it does kind of give you some links for our services, how to book in, but there's also such as the Keep Me Safe program. There's some links there and phone numbers that you can connect with. But there's also a ton of other supports as well. There's crisis lines too, so 24/7 supports. And there's also self-help resources. There's, I don't know, is there any podcasters out here that love podcasts? We got 1, 2, okay. I love podcasts, and there's a ton of, or YouTube videos, or even like there's so much out there on how to be well and how to take care of yourself. So on here, there's a few really good resources. They're all free, where you can actually learn on your own. You don't need a counselor to kind of go into different materials. So yeah, and they're all connected to anxiety, depression, some mindfulness, breathing exercises. There's a really nice self-compassion meditation that you can connect with. So yeah, I highly encourage to check it out, or feel free to connect with student services if you're ever, I guess, have questions about where I can get help and what help might be good for me. Okay. A little bit more about counseling. So I always go over this. Counseling, like I said, is free. It's also confidential. So what that means is what you kind of bring to myself or Christine, or even with Keep Me Safe, I'm guessing as well, is that it's completely private. So we don't go and talk to your instructors. The only reason we would break that is if we find that someone's at harm to themselves, or if we find out that someone else is at harm. But other than that, everything's completely confidential between you and the counselor. And what else? Yeah, we also do workshops, so keep your eye open for those throughout the semester. Come out, get engaged, get connected. We'd be happy to see you and help with whatever concerns you might face. So that's it from me. Any questions or thoughts about what I shared today, or questions in general about counseling and wellness, or even from the group, the online group, any questions as well?
About this workshop you just mentioned,
Yeah.
Where do we get the information about it?
Oh, that's a good question. I believe, so there is, although most people don't check it, there is on the college portal, there's like I forget what it's called. Pam, do you remember what it's called? There's like an announcement system where it does share recent things. Also on the social media pages, if you do follow those, often we'll post it on there when there is a workshop. And then around the school, we usually will put up posters if there's an upcoming workshop as well. Yeah, that's a good question. Anyone else? On the topic of workshop, I'm curious, we're going to be meeting in the next week about what workshops to offer. What would be, from this group, what would be an interesting topic you would like covered and that you might come to? Anything?
Maybe resilience, because I feel like most of the time, like when we get resources about how to feel well or everything, it's more about what's wrong.
Ah, yes.
There are telling you like, okay, you feel this, it's okay to feel this or something, but maybe it's good also to reflect how you deal with it after you just recognize it and just
Yes.
how you listen to yourself and how you adapt to it.
Ah, yeah. Was kind of like a focus on the adaptability, some practical things that might be helpful. Oh, good. Okay, I like that. Thanks.
This is out of scope, but almost, and possibly I'm saying this because I'm super sensitive, but like a cultural sensitivity, like being an international student, being in Canada with customs and cultures that are very often taken for granted, and I'm so super sensitive not to offend somebody.
Ah, sure.
But sometimes you just pick up on the body language and you're like, oh, I've done something wrong, but I really don't know what it was, and then it consumes me and I stress about it.
Right.
So that just adds an extra layer
Mm-hmm.
onto an already sort of a situation that is already requiring stress to adjust.
Right.
And if there's kind of just a few tip things that you just like, no, okay, cool, it's in the bag, or that I must just ignore because
right.
that's just a fussy individual.
Right.
Take it personally.
Oh, very neat. I like that one.
Yeah.
That could be really cool. Being able to, well, again, it goes back to recognizing and then adapting when I'm noticing that, I'm almost kind of thinking it's consuming me on top of the other things that are consuming me, and how do I deal with that? And specific to cultural kind of sensitivity.
Yeah.
Oh, neat. Ooh, I like that. Any other ones? Or questions? Anyone from the group online?
It doesn't look like there's any questions.
Perfect. Well, that's me. Nice to meet you all. Welcome. Don't hesitate to reach out if you need. And that's all. Thank you. Yeah. And Pam, are you next? Perfect.
Thanks, Lucas.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is yours on a USB or?
I've got a USB.
Okay, perfect.
Yes. So stand up and stretch and move a little bit before we start. We'll just maybe a couple minutes, or if you need to go to the bathroom, go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Oh, so this is Chris's stick. Can I take that?
Oh, that's mine. Yeah,
Oh, that's
we
yours.
can just eject it. It's fine.
Set up written update, so 1 o'clock we'll meet in the front and go for
Uh,
a hike.
Or I can just stick
it's
mine in
forest,
addition.
you
That's
wanna
okay.
join and
Eject. Okay, there we go.
just bring some water.
Oh, the device
And
is
then
currently
if
in
there's
use.
I'll leave it
anything
in
you
there.
want to be able to go over repeat
Okay.
of what we've done this week. Becky is working on uploading the PowerPoints and
Okay.
video recordings of the sessions. It'll more than likely
So,
be in Teams, and
hopefully,
we'll send a link to
everything
be
works
able to access
well
the
right
files.
now.
I'll make sure to.
Hoping for next week.
Fingers crossed.
It might be the week after. I think with Kathleen going, there's just a couple of, how do we?
It's a new thing to
readjust it?
remember
So,
about these
Yeah.
people and the people online as well.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so it should
Thank
be
you.
this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Mhm.
You have to.
All right, so I'm sharing and just want to make sure. I think so. I got the red thing around it.
It's sharing. Yeah.
And we're still on, right? Recording?
Yep.
Those of you online, can you hear me? And can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes? Yay, good. All right. All right. Well, thank you for coming again. This has been a long week for you guys, and this is the last day, and I really appreciate that so many of you have hung on until the end. So thank you very much. I think all of you were in previous sessions, but just in case, my name is Pam Bailey, and I'm the International Education Advisor here at College of the Rockies. So hello to those of you online who, if this is your first day here, I hope to be able to see you in person soon. So today we're going to talk about time management, which has a little bit of a connection to what Chris was just talking about. So we'll kind of make a few of those connections, hopefully. So first thing I'd like to have you think about is, what do you do? Where does your time go? What are some of the things that you do every day that take up your time? Maybe take just 1 minute with the person beside you or the person behind you and just talk a little bit about what you do. What are your hobbies? How do you spend your time?
Maybe for those in the chat, they can say what they're on.
Yeah, and those of you in online, you could just put yours in the chat if you'd like to do that.
Other than sleeping, it's very important.
Any comments?
Nope.
Keeping fit and active.
Oh, they're saying please repeat the question.
So for those of you online, I was just asking, how do you spend your time? What do you do every day?
Study. Yeah. Reading articles. I wonder what that's all about. What kind
Okay, thank you. So we had online, we had some comments, studying, reading articles. Okay, what are some ways that you spend your time? You can just shout it out. Working out. Okay, good. Cooking. Yeah. Cooking and eating. Lots of that. Going for walks. Very nice.
Sleeping is a big one for me.
Yes.
Very important.
Me as well. Yes. As you're going to see in my next slide, it's very important for me too. Yes, myself, I do a lot of hiking. I love to hike. I love to backpack, canoe, ski, anything that gets me outside. And I hope that you'll get to enjoy a lot of that while you're here, because that's one of the beautiful things about this whole area, is there is a lot of that sort of thing to do. So hopefully you'll be able to balance your life, your work, or your study and life, have some balance there with those sorts of activities. All right, so that brings me to the next thing. Sometimes thinking about how you currently spend your time is a good way to make you realize whether you have balance in your life. Like Chris was talking about, and I think one of you mentioned with one of the questions, that that's an important thing for your mental health, is to have some balance. If you're off balance for too long, your health is going to suffer. And sometimes being a student and you're just so focused on your studying and working, and you can get can sometimes get a bit stressed out. And then sometimes you might lose sleep, or you don't eat well, or you don't exercise, or you don't go for walks, or play tennis. So that can lead to some stress. And if you're off balance for too long, yeah, that's really not good. So it's a good idea to really think about how you spend your time. And I like to actually think of the day as 24 hours and actually calculate how many hours I spend doing certain things so that I can know if I have balance, first of all, and I can also find out where my time suckers are. Okay, for me, as you can see, I work. I have a full-time job, so a good at least 8 hours of my day are working, and I need 8 hours sleep a night. I'm one of those people that I cannot function on less. If I have 7 or 6 for one night, that's okay. But if it goes on for too long, I don't function very well. I know that about myself. Other things that I do, very important, I like to exercise, I cook, I study. My second language is Korean, and I like to try to study a little bit of that every day so that I don't lose it. So I like to do that. And then stuff. Stuff tends to be this is where my time suckers are. Netflix and YouTube. Those are my dangerous ones. I can go down a rabbit hole if I get onto YouTube for too long. So I have to be careful about that. They are my favorite ways to procrastinate, definitely. So procrastination, that can be a dangerous thing for all of us, I think. What does that mean to you, this word procrastination? I will do it tomorrow, yes. I'm very guilty of that too. Yes, I can totally relate to that one. Yeah, it's really when you have things to do, you have a series of tasks that you need to do, but you just don't do them. You put them off for many different reasons. I like to call procrastination the thief of time. It just takes your time away, but it happens to everybody. And it's not laziness. Some people think that procrastination is being lazy, but it's really not that. There are many ways and many reasons that people procrastinate. It's just a matter of having that, that awareness of where your time is going is quite important. So why do people procrastinate? I think there are so many reasons. One of them is people think, oh, I have a lot of time. It's not going to take that long. And this happens with your studies, with assignments. You think, I heard at the beginning when Chris was talking that many of you have been in post-secondary education already. So you know what that's like. You have an assignment and it's due, it's 2 months from now. I don't even have to think about that for a very long time. And then all of a sudden, the time just gets shorter and shorter and shorter. So it can be dangerous to think that you have too much time. So planning early can be helpful. Sometimes people think something is not that important. And this is why it's a good idea to look at your course syllabus and to talk to your instructors. Because sometimes what I've found, particularly with students coming from another culture, is maybe not realizing what types of things are important and what are less important, because what you're used to perhaps doing in schooling in your home country might be more important than what something is here, or the opposite. Sometimes something in your course might be very, very important, but you don't think it's important because you've never really thought about that one before. So find out what's important with your courses. And this next one, I'm afraid I won't do a good job. This is more common than you think. I don't know if you've felt this, but I feel this all the time. I've felt it throughout my entire university. I always felt that. And continuing on to my work life, there's that intimidation. You have something big that you need to do, perhaps something that you've never done before. You might experience that here because everything's going to be new. And you might just be too afraid to start it. You might think, oh, I don't have the skills to do that. Or, oh, if I don't know where to start. What should I do? And you just put it off and you procrastinate. So that's the time to reach out for help. Right? There's a lot of, as you know from previous workshops, there's a lot of help available here for you. So don't hesitate. The other one that you can't see is, I just don't feel like doing that right now. We all have been there, right? You're busy watching a great Netflix series and you say you're only going to watch one episode, but then you end up watching 4. And then where is your Sunday? It's all gone. So be careful of that one. And then the last is, I'm just too busy doing other things. And this can happen, especially if you're working at the same time as studying, which I think many of you might be, and you get busy with your job as well. So maybe you're working on Saturday and Sunday, and you don't have enough time to get started on those assignments. So these are all reasons why people procrastinate. It is normal. Don't beat yourself up about it, but just be aware. Because as students, and particularly as international students, because you're also dealing with a new culture and a new learning culture, a new academic culture, you're going to need to be very aware of your time, because it takes quite a lot to be successful at your studies. If you were here for Avery and Katie and Greg and Wayne's presentation, they gave you this stat as well, that students need to spend at least 2 hours of additional study time for every hour in class. So that's absolute minimum. And if you are studying in your additional language, that's going to be way more. Because I think any of you who are speaking in your additional language, conversational English, conversational language is way different than academic language. And as an example, my husband is not a native speaker of English. And when we moved here 12 years ago, he had a university degree already, but he wanted to change careers. So he came here to the College of the Rockies and he took the carpentry program. And he's from South Korea, so his first language is Korean. A very language that's structured very differently than English, different writing style, different test style. And he would spend, if his Canadian classmates spent 1 hour on something, he could spend 3 or 4 easily, because it just took so much longer to read. And tests, he sometimes found himself failing tests for the very first time in his life, because all of a sudden the testing style was different. Even multiple choice questions were all of a sudden a different kind of structure or style. So it will just take you longer. So keep that in mind when you're planning out your time. And you also need to think about your commitments outside of studying. I know many international students work in addition to study. because many of you can work 20 hours a week. So you can have a nice part-time job. And it doesn't seem like that much, 20 hours a week, but when you're studying full-time, it can be quite a lot. So how many hours will you really need? So if you look at this chart here, many of you are taking 4 or 5 classes. 5 classes is kind of the normal structure for a program. 5 classes in the fall, 5 in the winter. If you're taking 5, if you look at this, we've got 5 hours, 5 classes. That would be 15 hours per week. Outside of class, you're going to have 30 hours of studying, minimum, to be successful. And then, so that's 45 hours a week already. That is more than a full-time job, just studying. And then, if you're working 20 hours on top of that, that's 65 hours a week. That's a recipe for burnout pretty quickly if you don't, be careful and think about your time and think about your mental health, right? So don't underestimate how long it will take for your studies. And you really almost have to be almost military-like in your routine when you're a student and working at the same time, because it's a lot of work. But how can you do it all? Time management. There are strategies that you can utilize to help you be more successful. So one of the things that I like to do, and first of all, these strategies might not work for everybody. Everybody has different learning styles and different things that work for them. These are just some ideas and some things that research has shown that works quite well. So one of the most important things I want to suggest is look at the big picture. Buy a calendar, a real one, old style, like this. I know these days everything's online. You've got your calendar on your phone. You've got your schedule all laid out somewhere. We use Outlook here at the college, but there are so many different things you can use. This is still one of the best ways, is to have a big picture. So buy a calendar and then map out your entire semester. So September, October, November, December, map it all out. It might take a little bit of time at the beginning, but I guarantee you it'll be helpful. The first thing you want to do is look up the important dates on our college website. Things like when your tuition is due, when exams are, when the last date to add or drop courses. Those dates are extremely important. I have seen many students miss those dates and gotten a bit of trouble with their schedules because of that, saying, "Oh, I didn't know." So right at the very beginning, write that down. And I'm a very visual learner myself, so I love highlighter pens. I love these so much. I have them everywhere. They're all over the place. And I would like to suggest writing for each course, have a different color. Put your English 100 in purple. Put your tourism in pink. Put your math in orange. And on your calendar, add all the assignment due dates. So you're going to find those in your syllabus that your instructor is going to give you, all of the dates, presentations, assignments, quizzes, exams. Everything's going to be there. Write them down. I like to have a little legend in the corner of the bottom corner of my calendar with all the colors so that I remember which color is which. And that helps to keep you on track. I know it seems old style, but it's very helpful. It really is. How many times do you put something into your phone, a reminder, and then you forget to look at it? I don't know. I do that all the time. It could be my age, but all the time. So if I have a big calendar, which I have right on my fridge, first thing in the morning, I have to open up that fridge to get my food, and then I see my calendar, important things, so I won't forget. So this is an old calendar, sorry, it's for 2019, so ignore those dates. They're not the same as they are now. But I like to do this for each month, each semester. So notice on here, I've got dates in red. So from the College of the Rockies website, important things you need to remember, like your tuition fees, your last day to withdraw from courses. And then I've got all my assignments in different colors for my different courses. So that brings us to assignments. So what are some things you need to do when you have an assignment due? It's due at the end of the month. And at the beginning of the month, you're thinking about it. What are some things you need to do? You could just shout it out. Start to prepare. Exactly. What are some ways you can prepare?
Read well what will be asked. Read was not something that I'm used to, that I'm warned so much in advance of what the assignment will be, and I got like syllabus already, where I already know exactly what I need to do for the assignment in December. Like reading it out and maybe like writing it up somewhere, like in the beginning of your course or something, so that you can think about it without thinking about it, and get ideas. And researching.
Absolutely.
Or sometimes also like you
Research.
read something and you were not researching, but you just read something that is perfect for the assignment. But if you don't know the assignment, you will not know that it was like perfect for it.
Love that. That is so good. Yes, if you prepare ahead of time, exactly. You might have an assignment that is not due for a couple of months, but you found an article that's just going to be perfect for that assignment. So you kind of file that away. Excellent point, Sarah. Any other things? We've got so research was something I heard from. What's your name? Connie. I've heard from Connie. So definitely research, and you want to give yourself a lot of time for this. A lot of time. And I know I've said this so many times, but when you're studying in your additional language and you're reading in an additional language, research takes so much longer. Academic journals are tough to read. They're going to have a lot of vocabulary that you don't know that you're going to have to spend time looking up in your dictionary. So it's time consuming. So give yourself time, visit the library, use Askaway. Askaway is one of the resources under, when you go under student services, under the tutor and writing resources, Askaway is at the bottom, and you can chat with a librarian, and they will help you find journal articles, and they're very, very helpful. All right, so research. What else can you do to prepare? Oh, yes, absolutely. Ask early, not the night before, right? Because then it'll be too late. Exactly. Anything else? Okay. Yes. Something that's going to make you feel happy while you're spending all this time doing things like note-taking, right? You're going to want to spend a lot of time taking notes. You'll have some some chocolate right there, ready for you. So well-organized notes can make your assignment easier. I mentioned in another workshop, the academic integrity workshop, keep a notebook. Buy a whole bunch of those cheap little books from the dollar store and keep one for each assignment. And keep track of your notes in there because it'll make your assignment writing much easier. Create an outline for your assignment. And after creating an outline, this is a good time to talk to your instructor. Bring them your outline and say, okay, this is kind of where I'm thinking of going with this assignment. Is this what you're asking for? Is this correct? All right. Write a first draft. Because your first draft is going to be very different from your final draft. And consider taking your first draft to someone here at the college to take a look at. Penny Long is in the writing lab. You can send her your assignment instructions and your actual assignment, first draft, before your appointment. She will look at it and during the appointment give you feedback. So there's Penny, there's Alberta, who's our professional English tutor. You can email your assignment to her or you can bring it to the room. We don't know where she's going to be yet, but she'll be somewhere here in the college so you can actually bring your assignment to her. And Right Away is the online service that I talked about in my last presentation. So give yourself time for this. Then write a second draft, incorporating the feedback that you got from your first one. It takes time to incorporate feedback because sometimes what you've written in your first draft might be kind of off base. There might be a lot of things you need to consider. So give yourself time to think that through. Write the second draft, take it again to the writing lab, to the tutor, to Right Away. Write your final draft and take it to your tutor or Right Away or the writing lab. And edit. One of the things that instructors get very frustrated with is when students have not used a spell check and there are a lot of spelling errors or grammatical errors are a bit trickier than spelling errors because grammar checks don't work perfectly, of course. And instructors are not expecting you to be perfect in your grammar, particularly if English is not your first language. And also, even if it is, we see many domestic students as well whose grammar needs a little bit of tweaking. But just take the time to edit, give it to someone else to look at to find those errors, and give yourself time. So I would like to suggest doing something like this. Actually, on your big picture calendar, look at your assignment and when it's due, and think through how much time you need. So for me, I'm very slow. I take a long time to do things. So for me, a month wouldn't be enough time. I would need even more for that. But a month is probably, it's not bad. What do you think? Lucas, do you think a month is okay for an assignment? So if you've got an assignment, for example, here we've got the English assignment. Can't see it here, but it's due over here on the 29th or the 30th. So way up here, you're going to start thinking about it and put it on your calendar. This is the day I'm going to start researching my English 100 essay. So you're going to do some research, and then perhaps on the weekend, you know yourself well, you think you can do most of your note taking on the weekend, maybe schedule the time for that. Maybe on a Wednesday evening, do your outline, and write a first draft on the weekend. Make an appointment ahead of time with Penny in the writing lab to bring that in, and you will get an appointment because you're planning. So you know that you're going to write your first draft that weekend. You know it's going to be ready, so you can make that appointment. You can write another draft, bring it back to Penny, write the final draft, bring it back to her or the writing lab or right away. And then you've got time, a whole weekend, to fine tune and edit before it's due. Some people might think it's a little too much, but I guarantee it's not. You need a lot of time for your assignments. So take the time to do that. And remember this big picture, because you're looking at it. It's going to be on your fridge before you open it in the morning. So in addition to having your big picture on a calendar, it's important to also make a weekly schedule. This is helpful because it helps you to look at your big picture one and think about it each week. So you want to write everything down in your weekly schedule, what you have to do, your commitments, you've got your study time, your class time, you've got your work, you've got to plan your assignments. So you want to transfer that big picture to your weekly schedule. And it might look something like this. You have all of your classes in one color. You've got time set aside to study specific things. You also want to have you've got your work in there. You have your exercise time, because that is very important for your mental health. You have to have time to exercise. You have to have time to eat. You have to have time to cook. So thinking about all those things. So a weekly schedule can be pretty helpful. And you want to use some sort of planner. So up until recently, I still used a paper book planner because that just worked for me. My husband he just bothered me so much every time he saw me doing that paper calendar. He said, God, what? You're so old. No one does that anymore. Why are you doing that? So I succumbed to peer pressure from my husband, and now I have everything online now, but I still use a planner. So you can use paper or something online like Google Planner. Figure out how you work best and make a daily plan that suits you. Everybody works differently. I am a morning person. My thinking time is morning, very early morning. If you ask me to do something that requires a lot of thought after dinner, I'm not going to do a very good job on it. My husband, on the other hand, he works best at 2 in the morning. That's when he thinks best. So know yourself. Many, many years ago, when I did a master's degree, I was working at the same time. I had a full-time job while I was doing that. It was very stressful. I had to manage my time extremely well. When I got home from work, I was too tired. And I know that about myself. So I got up every day at 4. Got my coffee, had my breakfast, and I would sit there for 3 hours until 7:30. And that's when I did my research and writing, because that's the only time my brain works well. That's just me. So then I got home from work, I could have a exercise, cook dinner, go to bed early. That's me. It doesn't work for everybody. So find a daily plan that works for you and put all of your must-dos first on that daily plan. Things that are non-negotiable, things you absolutely have to do. Put those down. And then block out realistic study time. Can you study for 8 hours straight? No, it's not even healthy to do it more than about an hour. You have to really block out time for studying and time for breaks to rest for your mental health and your physical well-being. But one thing that's helpful about thinking about your schedule and thinking about how you spend your time and really looking and writing it down, you can find gaps and perhaps fill them. So going back to my example, at that time when I was working and studying at the same time, I was living in a big city and I needed to take the subway. So every day I had 1 hour to work to the university and 1 hour back. So that was 2 hours of time on the subway. So I would have all my articles printed and my highlighter pens, and I would sit there and do my research at that time. And because what else am I going to do? I have to be there. So think about that. And use your technology well. There are so many amazing time management apps out there, and you can try and see which ones work for you. I use this one called Remember the Milk. It's just a simple one. It's simple, just kind of lists. I like lists. I'm a list person, so that works for me. But that doesn't work for everybody. My husband looks at my Remember the Milk thing, and he can't even look at it. It almost makes him ill to look at it because it's just too much for him. So that wouldn't work for him. You might use something like Habitica. Habitica is almost like a game sort of time management app where you keep track of your time and you get avatars and things like that. I don't know how it works, but it looks kind of neat. Rescue Time, that's a productivity app. Focus Booster is based on the Pomodoro Technique, which I'm going to talk about in the next slide. And Forest is kind of neat. I use this one. Whenever you want to focus, you plant a tree. And then as you're focusing, your tree grows. And anytime you go and you do something else, your tree dies. And then as you grow a forest, you can actually, online money can be used to plant real trees. So it's just kind of cool. So there's some different things. Lots of technology out there. So the Pomodoro technique is kind of a classic time management technique. Have any of you heard of this before? No? Yes, so some yeses and some no's. It's very effective. You can actually get at the dollar store, you can get a Pomodoro timer that looks like a tomato, just like that. I have one of those, but you can also just use one on your phone. I think there's a Pomodoro app, so you can use that. And the way it works is you think about how much time you need to study. So in your plan, you might have on a Sunday afternoon that you're going to spend 2 hours on this particular assignment. But it's not healthy just to sit there for 2 solid hours. It's hard to focus. So think about how many Pomodoros you might need in that 2 hours. And one Pomodoro is 25 minutes. So that is proven to be kind of the best focus time, the maximum amount of time you can really, really focus before you need to step back a little bit. So put your timer for 25 minutes, put everything else away. For me, if I'm doing a Pomodoro, I cannot have my phone beside me. Even worse, I can't have my tablet beside me. I actually put them in the basement. And I live in a super old house, and I have a trap door that goes from my kitchen into my basement. So if I want to go into my basement, I have to lift up this ridiculously heavy trap door and then go down into a dungeon to get it. So I try not to go there very often. So if I have to focus, that's where my phone goes and my tablet. That's how bad of a procrastinator I am. So I totally understand you guys if anyone's like that. But after your 25 minutes, you take a break, a scheduled 5-minute break. You get up, you stretch, move around, sit outside, whatever you want to do. And then you set your other timer and power down and focus for another 25 minutes. So you do that for as many times as you've set for yourself. And then after 4 Pomodoros, you take a longer break. So maybe a 30-minute break. So it's a very useful technique. When I first heard about this, I kind of thought, oh, I don't know, that seems kind of silly. I don't think that's going to work for me. But it actually does. And I use it all the time. I had to do a big report about 2 years ago for my boss. And I was procrastinating because I was so intimidated by the report and I was scared to do it. And oh, it was going to be so much work. And that's when I started using this. I was kind of amazed. So give it a try. So that's it for time management. Do you have any questions or thoughts? Sure. Yes.
First, about the support writing, as we're talking about time management. Can you remind us how long it takes you to have an answer?
Good.
We need to plan this back.
Absolutely. So we've got 3 main writing supports here. So the first one is Writing Lab. So that one is downstairs in the library with Penny. Penny's super. She's been doing this a long time, so she can just zip you into shape with any writing troubles that you have. So you can book with her, I would say a week ahead of time. Make sure you go in there and book. Better longer, but she usually has appointment slots a week ahead. That's what I've heard from her. And you can book 3 times in a week. So think about, hopefully, if you do any of what I suggested, you might have your schedule for your assignments, so you can actually plan to make the appointments. You can make them ahead of time. Then there's Alberta. She's the professional English tutor. So she's going to have a room somewhere. Before the pandemic started, she was beside the library, but I don't know if it's going to be the same. But she will have a space and we'll somehow get that information out to you guys. You can drop in. She's going to have drop-in times. So you can actually just show up with your assignment. Or you can also email your assignment ahead of time. And then she can give you feedback and have it ready for you. There's an email address there for her under our supports. And I don't think, I don't know of any specific limit for her as far as how many times you can visit her. I don't think she has one for each assignment. Yeah, so the way it works right now is she's been meeting, and in the previous semester, you had to give her your assignment by noon of that day, and after noon, she wouldn't accept any more. But I don't know if it's going to be the same because everything's different now. And then right away is the provincial writing service. So that is not with someone specifically from our college. So you're not going to recognize a face or be able to talk to them. They could be from any university or any college in British Columbia, but it's still a professional tutor, not volunteers, actual professional tutors. And not that a volunteer can't be a professional tutor, but they're actual paid tutors from each institution. And that one, you upload your assignment. They are usually, I used to work for that service, and it would take anywhere from 24 to 72 hours to return an assignment, depending on the load that you're getting. And with those, you send it in, and then they send it back with all of the feedback embedded in your assignment. You can submit each assignment 3 times, but they have a rule. You must fix the feedback. So if you submit your assignment and they give you feedback and you don't change any of the things that they've suggested and then hand it back in, they won't even give you any feedback. They're kind of strict on that policy. But it's good because what they do is they look at the big stuff first, the big problems with your writing and your assignment, and they address those first. And then if you can do it 3 times, you get to the smaller ones. So by the end, you can have it really perfected. So you can use all 3 if you want, kind of stagger everything out, and then you'd have a really good assignment. And as a last resort, I was an English language teacher for over 20 years. So if you're in an appointment with me and you want me to take a quick look at something, I'm completely fine with that as well. So there's lots of options. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay.
I'm just make sure I understood well because I was very surprised about it when you mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
You said that it's okay to actually have outline or draft of your assignment and go to the teacher with it, and then or back correction on it.
Probably not so much the drafts. I think your drafts would be to Penny or Alberta or right away, but definitely an outline. I think.
Yeah, like a skeleton.
Yes.
You're saying what my introduction will be like. I'm going to make this up. Am I on the right track? And they might go, no, well,
Mm-hmm.
so that kind of thing definitely. Does that meet the assignment requirements?
Because Michelle's been with us for, yeah, so you know firsthand about this.
Also, like what you said with the reading, as you go through the lectures, the lecturer might, or the instructor, sorry, that's how we call it. The instructor might say something, you're like, oh, that's great. I can add that into the sort of skeleton, so you use that skeleton for your notes as well, and you can, in your assignment, under the various referencing guidelines, there are ways, a specific way which you can reference what the instructor said as well as a source and cite it. There's guidelines on how to do that.
Good point, Michelle. Citing, you got to cite everything.
Also, use content from the which is site or from even if it's directed to.
Yes.
It feels very strange.
Absolutely.
Saying
Yeah.
daily, 2021.
Yes.
It's like, oh, it feels very strange, but there is a methodology, and they guide you through how to do it, and then how to, even if it's lecture notes that were in Coda Online, there's a specific way you can even reference that. Yeah.
Such a good point, Michelle. And just, I know you were all there for the academic integrity workshop. It's so important to refer to the guides depending on your discipline. So APA or MLA, and there are others. So whatever guide that is, don't hesitate to just look it up. You're going to have to look up everything because you will not remember. There are so many different ways. There's different ways to cite a book, a magazine article, a journal article, a comment, an internet source, an interview, an article in an edited book. an article in a book with multiple authors. There's a different way to cite each one of those things. And instructors are fussy, aren't they? They're very fussy.
Many of the courses that people called facts and sources, this is probably if you go online, there are ways that they cite this and they regenerate it. It's never right. It's never right for what the course needs. So always follow what the instructor says, because it's stupid marks to lose. You know, when those are fussy, and each time it's a full stop, and then it's italics, and then but spend the time to do it right. And it's, yeah.
Oh, you're bringing up so many good points, Michelle. So that is so. I had just the last couple of years, we had one particular instructor. I'm not going to say who, but they were really taking off a lot of marks for the references pages of assignments. So this particular instructor had a number of, I think, like 10 or 12 mini assignments every other week. And each one of those mini assignments, you had to have a reference page at the end. And if you have one period wrong, or if you didn't indent far enough, or if you forgot a capital letter, you lost a couple of points on your assignment. Personally, I don't know, I think that's a little bit much personally, but that's the way it is. And so, as you said, you don't want to lose those kind of marks, because all you have to do is just look it up. It's like, okay, this is how I have to cite this comment. This is the exact way. I have to indent it this many times. I have to put this first and then this next. So just, it's a pain, but you have to do it. And going back to Sarah, what you were saying about going to your instructor, instructors will not look at your paper for plagiarism or things that are wrong. But if you have a specific questions, so if you could say, okay, did I cite this correctly, or did I summarize this correctly? They can absolutely help you with that. And also Penny in the writing lab, she's not going to look at your whole paper and find plagiarism. Oh my goodness, I had quite a few students last year who got academic misconducts, and they said to me, but Penny looked at my paper. She didn't tell me I had any. And it's not her job to go through and find all of the instances of plagiarism or academic misconduct. Because sometimes you can read a whole paper and it's not obvious. So going to her with specific questions. So here's an article, this is how I summarized it. Is this okay? Or here's a paragraph, this is how I paraphrased it. Does this make sense? Definitely ask her. Okay? And I have, pretty soon you're going to be there's going to be a little resource page that I kind of designed, that I just have all of these presentations that I've done to you, they're on there, as well as a few resources on writing and plagiarism and things like that. So you can take a look at some of those. Hopefully that'll help a bit too.
And just as we are mentioning it so often, like, would you advise us to warn the professors that we are not from Canada, that we are international students?
Yes, absolutely. Tell them, and
Especially online.
absolutely, that is so important, because you don't know from a name. You know, you can't tell from a name if someone is born here or is just here as a student right now. And also you don't know if someone's first language is not English, because saying, okay, my first language is French and my second language is English and I'm not feeling 100% in my English writing, definitely talk to them about that. Any other questions? All right, well, if you think of any, you know where to find me. I'm in student services. So when you're at the international office and you're standing in front of that office, you just kind of looking this way. That's